Late, and here with wet hair trying to cope this morning. Sorry I'm late. Having a disagreement with my husband of all things. We rarely disagree, but every now and then we'll knock heads. One of the head knockings is that our neighbor Christy, I'm sorry, when my hair is wet, it drives me crazy. Um, Christy wants us to buy her, go to go to the vet and get her ivermectin because she has COVID. And I'm not wanting to do that. I don't believe that ivermectin works. There's just a lot of problems with it. I don't think that horse anything is something that people should be taking unless there's studies that show that it helps. And there's really not. There's not a whole lot of evidence that ivermectin helps with. So, working on your screen printing, gingerly, I am jealous, very jealous. I actually was at the guy who does the t-shirts here for my husband yesterday, and I was watching him screen print and looking at everything and going, that looks that not that would looks like it'd be fun, but I know that's fun because I've done that in a little bit in the past myself. Hey Jackie, so what do you do when somebody asks you, hey, do this for me, and you have a fundamental disagreement with what they're saying, with what they're claiming? I don't know. Hey, small town Jewel. Hey, Bliss Chris. Yeah, it can be a pain until you kind of get a feel for it and get a rhythm for it. Tell her if it's from the vet, it's not approved for human use. Java Man, exactly. I think that's what I'm going to have to do because I really don't want to enable her to do something that I'm afraid might actually make her worse. Hey, Amanda. Yeah, it is Thursday. It's Thursday. Hallelujah. My bedroom and house are clean. And I got to show you the most important thing here in Costa Rica. If you lose it, you're screwed. This. We came back for the trip. I could not find this. This is a controller for the AC. Each room has one, and I lost it, could not find it for a long time. It was tucked under my pillow, not a place I would normally keep it, so I'm not sure how it got there. So, I wanted to talk a little bit today about that purity culture thing that we keep circling, we keep going back to it. I'm sure by now you've all heard the story that I wrote for my book. I'm talked about it here a bunch of times. The boy who was like 14 or so that when we had a big conference on sin, of course, he confessed he'd been delivered of the sin of PORN and self-abuse and talked about it in great detail. I've talked a couple of times about this story. It was a crazy one because I wanted to say, kid, you're normal, you're normal, you're normal. And I didn't. And that's my failure. That's where I suck. So I'm watching the Righteous Gemstones last night, folding so much laundry, Mount Laundry, because of all of our laundry. I got to get all the crap out of the cabina and wash it. I had to take all the towels out of the guest room. There was the extra towels by the pool. There was just extra. So I'm folding towels galore and clothing and bedding. And I start watching one of my favorite shows is The Righteous Gemstones on HBO. When the show first started, I wasn't sure I was going to like it. But with the opening sequence where they had the two pastors arguing over who had baptized the most people, while a lady in the background saying in Chinese, "Our God is an awesome God." A wonderful song by Rich Mullins, written back in the 1990s, that almost every church used. When I saw that, I was like, wait a minute. There is something just so familiar about that. Later, I learned that Danny McBride, the writer, actor, director, all around wonderkin, who's behind the show, is the one that did it, had attended a sister church to our beloved Possum Creek. He had attended the sister church in Fredericksburg, Virginia. So I was like, okay, no wonder that seems so familiar because That actually happened. It happened at one of the churches in our presbytery, our group, on a mission trip. And there are two or three other things that happened in the Righteous Gemstones that I recognize. So when I see something that I recognize in there, I just bust out laughing. Now I've gone in and watched everybody else's take on season 2, and everybody is missing this thing I'm going to talk about today. The kitty put it on your pillow for thought. Yeah, I'm sure she might have. So nobody has talked about this sequence of scenes, and I feel like this is a very subtle nod by Danny McBride to the whole purity culture thing. Like I was talking about, the poor kid, the poor 14-year-old boy that was convinced he was going to hell because he was involved in self-pleasure. So what happened was the Danny McBride character, Jesse, and his wife, Amber, were talking about their youngest child who was just moving into the teens, leaving his crusty underwear everywhere. And the underwear would have been crusty with semen. And apparently he was playing with little dudes. So they asked their son, their eldest son, to talk to the youngest about this, to bring it up in such a way that he would understand not to leave his crusty, funky drawers everywhere. Sandy Patty, how magic. Yeah, that was pretty good. So they're talking about this, and the eldest son says, well, I'm going to have to wait until it comes up, and it's, what was the word he used? Oh, I can't remember, but it's something like it would naturally come up, something similar that would allow him to segue straight into the, hey, dude, don't do that happy pants dance and leave the underwear where the parents can find it. Just put your underwear in the bin. So this continued on, and it was like a running theme off and on, a few minutes here and there through episode 1 and episode 2. And at the end of the sequence about it, Jesse found a pair of the boys' crusty underwear in the drawer of his desk. Okay, the drawer of his desk. There it was. It kind of flipped out, and he grabbed the eldest son and said, you were supposed to talk to him about this. Well, it never really was a natural moment organically to flow into that, to talk about it. So we didn't talk about it yet. So he confronts the child. And at the very end, after he has said, don't leave your crusty underwear everywhere because you're grossing us out, he started talking to the boy, and he started using that incredibly toxic purity culture rap that was given at our Presbytery of churches. He told the boy that everybody in heaven was watching him do this, and everybody, his grandma, whoever, was watching this. So he shouldn't do it. It was a sin. It was a sinful thing to have those kind of thoughts and do that stuff. He started laying it on thick, the very same things that were said at Possum Creek to all those poor kids, including that poor little boy that kept screeching about he had sinned, but God had delivered him from his sin of self-abuse. God, I hate YouTube sometimes because they make it where you can't really use direct language about what you're talking about. And I'm a big believer in using very direct language. Yeah, and not everybody in heaven. Yeah, so that is a lot of shame to throw on a kid. So you have these kids like the kid I knew that was doing this stuff and was thinking it was the worst sin in the world. He's going straight to hell. This is the kind of thinking that creates guys like Josh Duggar. It just does. If you're told that that's super sinful and you have hit that age where you're having those thoughts and feelings and there's no healthy outlet for it, you're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to do the self-abuse, happy pants dance, or any of that. it gets crazy. I'd like to see that show. I love Danny McBride. His comedy is my cup of tea. I loved Eastbound and Down. I consider myself Christian, and I'm right up with Danny McBride. There's my sense of humor. Jackie, same. That's what was so interesting to me when I learned he'd gone to a sister church as a child. I was like, no wonder all of this is so familiar because some of this actually happened at the old Presbyterian churches that we attended. I liked vice principals. That was crazy. So I found myself really enjoying Danny McBride and his humor. And this was so subtle that most of the people who weren't raised in Quiverful or had no knowledge of what an evangelical church is like are just glossing over this. Like, this isn't even a thing. They're talking about the dead journalists. I'm sorry, spoilers. Thank you, Jackie. My yarn fund needs it. Because I'm going back to the States soon, I think. I'm going to be spending every penny on yarn. So Danny McBride is very subtly calling these people out for the more toxic things through this program. I laughed because one of the scenes he had was with this couple, and they had a big mega church. And there was stuff going on that I saw happen at churches in our presbytery. There was slain in the spirit. I don't know if you're familiar with that, where take it. And then the next thing you know, everybody's falling down. So there was that going on. There was all kinds of things going on. There were people, I haven't seen people laughing yet. We used to have the gift of laughter, people crowing like roosters, all kinds of different manifestations that don't have a thing to do with the dancing and jumping up and down that everybody does, but it just was very extreme. And I'm starting to develop a theology about that. And there maybe some of that is genuine, but I think a lot of it is performance related. Um, so back to the purity culture. You know, in the writing they call it, the kids have come out, they call it purity culture, our culture, and say they're intrinsically linked. And if you can look at people like Josh Duggar, that's an extreme example of how you went from having normal feelings at adolescence and normal curiosity to touching your sisters and somehow ended up with CP. That stuff just automatically makes me think of Jim Jones. Listen, Chris, a lot of it makes me think of Jim Jones too. And I got out, thank God, before I got to the Kool-Aid part. I'm reminded at church in Toronto with the laughter and the chicken thing. Amanda, yes, that was the Toronto Airport Christian Fellowship. And guess what? I used to go there all the time. I loved it. The sermons were actually not bad. There were a lot of creative kind of thinking things with the sermons. And I liked the fact that it wasn't, you're going to hell. It wasn't fire and brimstone. I always appreciate when the sermon is not fire and brimstone, because I think that's literally the stupidest way to bring people in the kingdom, is to scare the hell out of them. Better to focus on the positives and that sort of thing, the love of God and the love of Jesus, and then to say, oh, you're going to hell unless you do this. So yeah, there was a lot of that going on, and they were leading up to that, where they got with they had this other couple that had a big mega church that Jesse and Amber were going to build a Christian resort with. I still like the line from Saturday Night Live. You not only drank the Kool-Aid, you went back for seconds. There's some of that. God knows I did that too. So when you're in the middle of it, it seems pretty normal. The purity culture thing seems normal, like it makes common sense. The whole crowing, rolling on the floor, holy laughter, fire tunnels seem normal while you're engaged in it. But after you gain a little space, you're like, what was that about? And so I'm at the phase right now where I'm saying, what was that really about? And I'm looking at it from that perspective, and it's not always easy or fun. I think I'm going to have to apologize anew to my kids for the crap I drug them through, because I'm pretty sure they all have some unhealthy things they carried out like I do that they struggle with. We all do. Like I said, it was a group project to get out. It wasn't easy. Dances in the rain. I went to a vineyard in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho during the Toronto airport. Did you? Now I used to visit vineyard churches every now and then. Our church wasn't vineyard, but I'm well familiar with vineyard. Oh, Toronto. And I have had some of the best times of my life at Toronto Airport Christian Fellowship, but also some of the strangest and most toxic times on some of it, particularly when they started talking about things like sexual purity. Now, it's probably a good, it's nobody's business if you sleep with enough people that it starts to look, ridiculous. Like maybe you're doing everybody in the Chinese Red Army on the side of the Ho Chi Minh Trail. It's probably not a good thing to do, but if that's your thing and you're not hurting anybody, go for it. That's kind of where I am with this now. And the thing with the sexual purity is it ignores the entire normality of our developing sexuality. We're talking things like night emissions. They call that sinful. That's not sinful. That's your body starting to do what it has to do to make sure you have full reproductive function while you're an adult. So teaching that things like that are sin or nocturnal erections is completely denying science. And it's loading a child with a load of guilt, where if they start to associate guilt and that sort of thing with sex, you either have incredibly repressed people that can't deal with normal sexuality, or you have the Josh Duggars of this world that eventually get caught in some sleazy hotel room with a lady or man of the night, an ocelot, and a couple of jars of mayonnaise. I mean, they go into some weird places. So that's probably not a good thing unless that really is your thing and you're not harming anybody. Please leave the ocelot out. He didn't do anything. So that's the danger, I think, with that kind of thing. When in fact, the Kool-Aid was a forced mass murder. Yeah, it was. It's not anything to joke about, but everybody does. Yeah. Amanda, that's something I've thought about too. I can't imagine being a mother with children and being told that you're going to drink the Kool-Aid. Jones was a maniacal idiot in a lot of ways. I read a book on him a couple of years ago, and like a lot of people, he started well, he finished poorly. If I had a laundry list of people that started well and finished poorly, it would be really long. That, it talks about in the Bible running the race to the end so you can receive the prize and how many people fall by the wayside. There's a lot of truth to that. And you look at some of this stuff and you're like, I just do not get it. Those were interesting times back then, very interesting times. It wasn't so much Kool-Aid drinking as I think it was almost a mass hysteria. I think that when your life is hard, and there are a lot of people I knew in my old church that lived hard lives. We're talking, example, I had a friend, husband and wife couple, where the husband had been married multiple times and his wives had all cheated on him. And his last wife, he married, there was something not normal about her. I'm just going to say it. I don't know what it was. I didn't pry deeply enough. And they were so much older than everybody else when they got married that they had twins. And both twins had Down syndrome. And I know that it was a heavy road to hoe for him. And every now and then he'd fall off the wagon. Do you remember the gold dust? Oh, yes. I remember the gold dust, the feathers falling from heaven, the gemstones. Do you remember those days? You would go to these conferences with an expectation that gold dust was going to fall from the ceiling. I actually been in a few places where people were ending up with little fine specks of what they thought was gold on their hands. They got off big time. Yeah, the purity cult was also another example of the way off course, too. Yep. That's the thing. And when you start chasing miracles, like gold dust, like being slain in the spirit, like fire tunnels, when you start chasing the experiences without anything foundational behind those experiences, I think it goes probably as best as that's a thought I hadn't had. When you start chasing those kind of experiences without considering what the words of Jesus were and what Jesus did and said you're supposed to do, you go way off the rails. I saw it happen so many times. I was participating in it. Participating. Could not wash it off. Dances in the rain, yes. Could not wash it off. You're right. I wonder if it was glitter dumped from the ceiling. Because glitter goes everywhere. And I can tell you all about that because I used to do worship flags. I don't know how many of you have seen worship flags. I was really big into that. I would make them, sell them, give them away sometimes. But I would make these big half round ones that the center of the half round one was chiffon that was glitter bedecked. And the outside was shiny lame. And they weren't easy to make and they weren't cheap. I would have close to $100 worth of fabric in each one I made because they were like 9 feet long. They were beautiful. They looked beautiful when you swirled them through the air, but the glitter went everywhere. I've often wondered if maybe some of the things that were going on at these conferences they were claiming were gold dust was glitter from flags. I looked in the vents, everything. It was a hotel conference room. Dances in the Rain, I don't have any explanation for that. Like I said, I've been at these places too where white feathers started falling from the ceiling or gold dust. I never saw gemstones, but I have friends that have been to conferences that saw gemstones. I don't have any explanation for a lot of these things, and I'm still thinking about them myself, even so many years later. And let's be real here. This purity culture crap, and it is crap, it follows you and it screws with you at the weirdest times when you're not really thinking about it. For me, it's stupid stuff like one day we were driving through San Jose at night and I saw a lady of the night and started thinking very self-righteously, oh, look at that sin, horrible bad woman. And I thought, no, I can't say that because the people I know here that are engaged in prostitution, 99.99% of the time, they're from super poverty ridden areas, and that is the only way they can make it, that kind of money. I just can't. A thing with kids is, oh, Lady Hawk. Oh my goodness, the whole slime thing. If you ever like to watch videos to like make your mind do whatever so you can sleep, sometimes for me it's the slime creation ones where someone will make a big pan of slime and they'll dump in different kinds of glitter or eyeshadow or whatever and start mixing it up. But sometimes I get mad because they overmix and they put too many things in. Yeah, slime is the thing again. Slime is the thing. Thank God nobody from these churches decided that slime should drop from the heavens or we would do anything with slime because that would just be way too much for all of us. So back to the purity culture, it can hit you in some weird times and weird ways, even if you really wasn't, yeah, they're green slime, Nickelodeon. I think for me, I was thinking about this the other day. When I came here, some of the purity culture stuff hit me at first because at the churches here, it's not unusual to see a woman walk in wearing a bra top and a pair of cutoff shorts, so short their butt cheeks are hanging out. It's not uncommon to be on the beach and see women wearing bikinis that are like a whole lot of string and maybe 3 postage stamps. So These things, they hit you at the weirdest times. Our first trip here, maybe 8 years ago, it hit me hard the day I got a massage. We stayed at the same place we stayed at last week. It's on the side of a dead volcano called Cerro Chato. It is the hotel's built on the side of the side of the dead volcano. And I was having a massage. They have a spa there. The massage area is outside. So here I am, totally buck ass naked, middle of the day, outside on the side of a volcano, getting a massage while drinking a coconut, banana, and mango and guaro rum drink. And I turned to my husband and said, you know, if those people from our old church could see me now, they would accuse me of cavorting with the devil. So naked outside. It was a pretty weird but freeing feeling for me, and it was not something I would ever consider doing. Santa, aka my husband, bought my 4-year-old daughter an at-home slime making kit for Xmas. Oh my goodness, with glitter. Um, Bliss. Slime in the carpets is the worst. My own kids did that to us, and I could not figure any way to get the slime out. How's it come out? Bill Murray said he felt funky. Yeah, that slime would be gross. Jackie, was it the Green Lagoon? Because it's the Green Lagoon Health Resort is where I always stay when I go there. Except now it has completely been renamed the Arnault Waterfall Lodge. It's wonderful. They have all kinds of things. You can hike up Cerro Chato to the very top. My husband attempted that this time, and I got a quarter of the way and had to turn around. Oh, it's a nice place. Naked outside, get a massage by a volcano sounds like it was heaven. It was heavenly. It was one of the best things. And I'm not somebody that likes massage. Normally that's too much for me. And now with the nerve pain on the left side of my body, I can't handle it. I can't handle being touched on the left side of my body. My husband can tell you I'm frequently saying, touch the other side if you're going to hug me, whatever. Do my right side because the left side is constant pins and needles and pain. And I would just prefer you not to make it worse. If anyone finds out a hack to get it out, let me know. Listen, I'm going to have to do some research because I'm curious about that. And my kids are getting the age where they're marrying and settling down and having kids. And I just know we're going to have grandkids coming here and there'll probably be slime in our few little rugs, throw rugs. So knowing how to take that out would be a very, very useful thing. That stuff dries to a concrete and I don't know how to get it out. And glitter is just as bad. You know, I haven't been doing Russian flags in a long time, but my sewing room in Culpeper was just all glitter everywhere, and it would somehow get tracked around the house. So it's so funny what we carry out. And like I said, for me, having that new massage I knew it was something that no one that I went to church with in my old group would approve of. They would all judge me for being outside naked. And they would have definitely judged me if they'd have seen the tiny, lovely little Costa Rican woman that walked on my back because I had that done, and that was pretty fabulous. Vinegar is the solvent for slime. How? Oh, okay. I'm going to have to try that. I'm always amazed when people give me cleaning hacks I didn't know, like one time I had to clean my toaster oven and I discovered that you could mix water and baking soda and paint the inside, turn it on, let it cool down, and then wipe it out and everything came off. It worked. So I don't use anything like that anymore. I'm just very, very funny about using chemicals because of my allergies. Cats are great at tracking things through the house. Oh, yes, they are. To this day, I still have cat footprints and paint in various places here that I need to scrub off, especially now that we're going to be building another house, and we're going to be renting this one out during high season to other people. Maybe we'll rent the mountain house. I don't know. But I've got some places where I have to use some scrub to get the oil paint off. I also use vinegar to clean up alkaline battery leaks. That's a good idea. I don't know how I went from talking about the Righteous Gemstones exposing purity culture to cleaning, but it's all good. And so I just had to laugh over that. And I can't wait. Yeah, I hate Duracell too for that reason. I can't wait to see what's going to happen in the coming coming the coming episodes, because this has been crazy. They're making it, they have the father, Eli Gemstone, has been exposed as a wrestler in his youth. And I can't remember, it was something kid. The Maniac Kid was his wrestling name. Wrestling. My kids love wrestling. They go to it all the time. Can't remember. I have to look at the Bonnie room pic. Instead, the Papagayo Guanacaste decided to go to Arnold in a concert at the last minute. Did the volcano facial massage in Springs. Ooh, you did the good stuff. I hike down to the freebie. I do the freebie when I'm going to go sit in the volcano water. I go where all the locals go now. But yeah, sounds like you had a fabulous time. There's so much to do there. Papagayo Guanacaste, I'm not as familiar with that, but I'm sure it's one of the beach resorts around here that I haven't had the pleasure. If you ever have the money and the time to do it, Playa Donta with the, what's the name of that giant resort they have there? It looks like a European village. It's one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen. And they are just, it's fabulous out of this world. We go there sometimes to have lunch and then hang out on the beach and swing in the swings. I'll swing in the swings. My husband will do various things. They have all kinds of stuff. I need to get HBO Plus. I want to watch the Way Down docuseries. Amanda, I tried to watch it. I had to actually stop because I was being triggered, because I knew some of these people. I'd been very heavily involved in Way Down Workshop, and I'd actually been a Way Down Workshop teacher for a while. And it was just too much for me. I couldn't watch it. Daryl Hannah likes lithium salt baths. You have to. You have to. I was talking to my daughter about that because she's thinking about going to Key West and for her honeymoon, and we were looking at places online and saying, "Wow, this one's got a hot tub on the balcony. This one's got this. Find some place really nice for your honeymoon." We did. We went to the Bahamas. And before that, we stayed a couple nights in New Orleans at one of the big fancy hotels in the honeymoon suite. And that was just one of the nicest things. Amanda, I will be able to watch it at some point, but I'm just not there yet. The Righteous Gemstones is a different thing because they're mixing it with some crazy humor. But I love the season 1 finale where all the storylines came together. Everything was healed, and their family was being a good influence for Christ. I have to say, at the very end, it was. But most Christians are going to look at that and say, "He's cursing. That one's fornicating. There's drinking, possible homosexuality." They're going to judge it from those things and miss the deeper messages of the show. Miss the Bahamas. Oh yeah, Lady Hawk. I don't blame you. It is pretty awesome. Hey Michelle. Um, the series is pretty darn wonderful in its own weird way because the humor is right on point. And so many of the things they talk about with, as you can see, with evangelicalism, whether it's don't do that, don't do the happy pants dance because all your grandparents are watching you do that, along with Paul, Matthew, Mark, and all the other saints, which is not a healthy thing to tell a kid. Punta Cana. Yeah. Some of the best vacations. Yeah. Jackie, that's the nicest thing about living here is the nature is just wonderful. For HBO movies, Recount and the one about Sarah Palin were pretty good. I haven't seen either one of those, but I haven't watched a lot of movies lately. And I usually only sit down and watch TV when I'm A, sick as a dog and crocheting, or B, I have laundry to fold. I despise doing folding laundry. I wish somebody would invent an event bin, get bins and just throw your stuff in without folding it. Because that would suit me, but I know I'd end up with wrinkled stuff, and I'm not ironing anything in Costa Rica. That's just not happening. So that's basically it. Teach your kids about sex, because if you don't, they're going to pick it up on the streets. They're going to get wrong information. And if you're in an evangelical church, you're definitely going to get wrong information. They're going to get a boatload of shame and shaming, and they're going to be made to feel the needs of their own body are sinful, and that's has consequences to the rest of their lives. We need a Rosie from the Jetsons for laundry folding. I absolutely agree. Imagine having to haul the water yourself for the laundry. People used to do that. I know I'm spoiled. I know that. I admit that I am so damn spoiled to have a washer and dryer. I've already told my husband for the next house we get built. I've already picked out some of the appliances. I don't know how wrong that is. Lady Hawk, I was raised Catholic too. And here's an interesting thing. The church that I went to that I call Possum Creek, almost everybody there was a lapsed Catholic of some. And after having been in various evangelical churches, what I can tell you is the lapsed Catholics are the most hardcore. They're the ones that are most down with everything. They're like, rock on, we're doing this. And that was the other thing that I really enjoyed with the show, is like when they were doing the other couple, the people in Texas who were the other giant mega church. They showed rock and roll church, as somebody says. They showed all the guitars and the worship music that resembles rock music that we used to love, that I still sing. So there's that. Every part of it feels very quite real. So I know this is Danny McBride taking his childhood and just putting that out there. With every first world gadget and machine, I still dread chores. Same, Lisa. Same. And if you hire somebody to do it, you gotta make them do it. You gotta stand over them sometimes. I'm happy the Pope is on board with the vaccine. So am I, even though if he said that crap about people having pets instead of children. Dude, nobody has taken my pile of cats away from me. I'm not having any more children. I'm 61. I'm allowed to have my cats. People want to have cats or dogs, no matter what age they are, and don't want children. That is fine with me. That's really them. My grandparents did the laundry at the river and had me hand scrubbing clothes on a washing board. Oh my goodness. We are spoiled. That is. It is. It's funny. It's funny, Kiki Ray. He takes the odd bits and makes it even more comical, I think. Gotta love the recovering Catholics. Mass was always so boring. Ah, absolutely. If we'd have had rock music in our Catholic churches, maybe none of us would have turned out that way. And wouldn't have turned out to be so sarcastic. I know I certainly did. I'm still drinking coffee. I stayed up until like 2 a.m., and that's not me. So the other thing I want to talk about that kind of ties in with this show is that Kelvin, the youngest Gemstone's son, who's a youth pastor, is now heading some kind of ministry called the and I kid you not, the God Squad. What was the God Squad? The picture that I put on the beginning of this, and they're all bodybuilders. They're big and muscly. And there's already this weird relationship between Keith, who is my favorite character, and Kelvin. Keith and Kelvin are just kind of peas in the pod. And there seems to be some kind of underlying gay tension going on there. Like baby Kelvin is gay and he hasn't really accepted it yet. So Kelvin does all this weird stuff that you look at and just go, he's in the closet. He's got to be in the closet to be doing these things. And the latest one is all the muscle men and his God Squad thing. And you're just looking at this going, this is the most bizarre thing I've ever seen. So I predict all of that's going to come to a head. And there's going to be some kind of shade thrown over calling someone the gay. And I would like to see that. I would like to see the family say gay is okay. We call it SAR Catholic. I know a lot of them have anything that brings you joy, fur or skin. You are exactly right. I don't remember the Catholic Church being anti-vax. I had all my vax. Same. Right. They were very opposed to abortion. They weren't opposed to taking your children to the doctor. They weren't opposed to you getting vaccinations. They weren't opposed to regular medical exams at all, which is important for our health sometimes to go in and have those tests run. Now I don't have to do that because I'm in there frequently enough with other crap that can always measure my blood sugar levels then and various other things. But I think it's important for your health to do those things. That's one thing I like about Costa Rica because the wilderness here, being outside is so wonderful. We're actually outside a fair amount. I remember those God Squad groups coming to my youth group as a kid. Oh, yes. And I remember seeing all kinds of kids groups coming to affect the youth groups like yo-yos for Christ, skateboarding for Christ, all these different kid activities for Christ. I don't object to any of those activities, and I think you could do them for the Lord. But I do object to saying, this is my ministry. This thing I love that I do is my ministry. Well, about that, I think it's something you do because you like to do, and if it brings you joy and you feel close to the Lord, fine. But to say that is kind of taking it a little bit far. But we've seen some crazy ministry things through the years. And I have to just say, as far as like people wrapping different things in religion, I think recently we saw the craziest, and I got to put a footnote on this. Anthem Collins. Did everybody see that Anthem is now out of the hospital? But it looked like from the photos and the video that her mother Carissa posted that maybe she had COVID that spun into lung issues. That poor child was very, very ill. She finally came home. She beat whatever it was. They gave her enough medicine to be able to beat whatever it was. And she's better. I didn't even think about that, about Carissa and mentioning how she was doing, how her child was doing, until I had a negative comment on my Carissa Collins video where I was talking about we're all puzzling over what was going on with Anthem and wondering why she was taking everything down from social media. I had somebody show up and say a bunch of stuff today. I was like, not because the person said all that, because I routinely get that kind of pushback. I did all the time when I was writing for No Longer Quivering for over almost 10 years. You should see some of the emails I would get. Some of them were downright comical. But I don't see we're mentioning somebody that pushes himself constantly on social media, promotes their children like that. It's not wrong. I mean, we're obviously going to be concerned. I know everybody I talked to was not glorifying in this. We were all concerned about Anthem. Everyone. Yes, Lady Hawk, like my friend that wants me to go get ivermectin, horse dewormer for her. It's very controversial, and in the church, people are doing crazy things. crazy, crazy, crazy things. And I'm not saying the left isn't doing crazy things too. This morning, somebody sent me an article that said cannabinoids, the compounds in cannabis. Let me just say that since I'm stumbling over it. That the compounds in cannabis kill COVID. And I've seen on both sides various people claiming this and that and the other thing kills COVID, everything from horse dewormer to God knows what. So, I don't know. I know the answer is not complete. There's some, and that's another thing, especially after leaving my old church. Whenever I want to see real information about medical, I will go look in the National Institute of Health. They have a huge archive of studies and articles and all kinds of things. It's so many things have been just studied to death that they know. And that is my plumb line. That's where I look at things and say, yes, no, maybe, because I trust people who've studied this crap. I saw that about the Clorox website. Do not ingest or inject. They had to do that back when AIDS was really bad too, because people were drinking it. That was the advice being given to cure your AIDS, was to start drinking real bleach. And I'm not talking about the miracle solution bleach that guy was pushing, the industrial bleach. That was huge in the autism world, and people were giving their kids bleach enemas, thinking that that was going to cure them, even though there was no evidence of that. There were no studies that promoted that at all. I'm pretty much safe from Lady Hawk. I am too, because I use it for my asthma. It works wonders for that. It works wonders for that. And I thought that it was odd that Omarosa was an ordained minister. So was John Wayne Bobbitt. Oh, I didn't know that about Bobbitt. That's kind of funny. So many crazy ordained ministers. So many people out there that are just ordained ministers that I just look at them sideways and I'm like, really? Really? It's insane that Clarks would have to do this. It isn't it, Java? Oh my goodness. Yes. I think common sense has died. That's one of the things that I don't like. And that's one of the things that I think that evangelicals have brought to the table, that they've promoted these crazy things as actual legitimate substitutes for antibiotics, for vaccines, or legitimate medical treatment. They've thrown the baby out with the bathwater for this crap. And I'm just like, oh my goodness, no. Yeah, I don't buy it. So, oh my goodness. Well, I know in Vegas they ordain a lot of people so they can have these marriages. I have a friend that had a vow renewal with an Elvis impersonator. That was kind of interesting. But most of the time, yeah. Java, I remember that because every afternoon when this first started, when the pandemic first started, I would tune in to see the numbers and to hear what the people from the administration had to say about this awful virus and how to combat it. Does anybody remember hydroxychloroquine? When I started playing the game of asthma or virus, one of the things that happened was I had to have a test early on. I had to have a test in like late March. And at that time, here in Costa Rica, the only way you get it was the health department had to come out. The doctor had to call the health department and say, hey, suspected case here, come out and test. And they would test you. And one of the things that they did after they tested me was they handed me a sealed packet After they handed me my quarantine notice that said, "You are quarantined officially for 10 days," they handed me a little packet about that big, sealed plastic packet with hydroxychloroquine in it and advised me to start taking it and to get a Z pack. So I took one of them and then I threw the rest of them out because I couldn't find any evidence, any legitimate studies that showed it actually helped. And I was worried about having the side effects. But here's where that was interesting. If you turned it over and you saw the American manufacturer, there was a sticker on the back that said for research purposes only. So basically, what they were doing was the manufacturer of hydroxychloroquine was distributed it willy-nilly in these smaller countries like Costa Rica and giving it to the health departments to give out to people with suspected beer virus. And they were going to, at that point, use the research. So that's how they were researching it. And I have a problem with that. You just don't use poor countries as a test case. You don't give them something that could potentially be harmful. As okay, run this on all your people. People are not. I mean, it's one thing if you sign up for these trials, and people do sign up for trials all the time for these drugs. And you can make a pretty penny doing it, but you don't use an entire population of another country in order to test your drugs. You just don't do that. That's not ethical. But that's exactly what they did. So this left's weed seems to be more horse to wormer. Lisa, yes and no. I have a big confession to make, a dumb one. The day my daughter called me, I had been to the local farmer's market. I'd hit up the lady because I can't get medical marijuana here. When I was in the States and they put me on it at a research hospital, I would walk into the dispensary and buy the edibles. Okay. And I knew how much, and I knew what was in them. I knew how much the dose took to turn off the asthma, but to not make me stoned. I don't like that stone feeling. I used to love it as a teenager. Now I'm just kind of over it. So when I bought my stash of edibles from this lady, and she openly sells them, so that tells you how much Costa Rica enforces their anti-drug policy. She asked me how I was using them, and I told her I said I take them, I chop them up into 16 pieces. And when the lungs are tight, I'll take one of the pieces, and it's enough to make the lungs open. And she said, you should check the dosages. You should try an eighth and see if that works better. When you get home and you cut all these up, take an eighth and see what happens. Well, I did take an eighth. And what happened was I got unbelievably, stupidly stoned. I mean, crazy stoned. My daughter's calling me and telling me about her engagement. I'm stoned. I'm going online to do a video to talk about a very serious thing. I'm stoned. I can't talk about it. So I learned 1/16 is the dose for me. 1/8 is not. It's just gonna be, I'm just working out the senior citizen version of I was gonna wash my car, but then I got high. That song, that stupid song. I was living that out. It took me a day and a half before I felt normal again. So that's just kind of stupid. I'm so old. So Tuskegee exactly. That was withholding drugs. Yeah, but deliberately focused on a specific group of people, and it was a horrendous tragedy. Yes, Lady Hawk, that is so, so. And I agree that they do post. The left pushes crazy things. Having asthma in this country around so many yoga doing vegans, I can't tell you the things that have been said to me that you do this X, Y, and Z by the yoga heads. It's been pretty crazy, some of the stuff that has been said to me through the years and here, and I'm just kind of like, nope. I know it works for me. I know it doesn't. Oh, that was a live learn moment for sure, and it was not good. I was just like, y'all can't mess around with edibles. It's like a freight train. It did. It's why I was like, tiny, tiny bits when I need it to turn off the asthma. I don't need to be so high I can't walk or speak. I just need enough to make the lungs do this. I guess I've just gotten too old for that. Anyway, I should go on and go. My day, I got to go about my day. I haven't had lunch yet. Like I said, I went to bed at 2 a.m., got up late. Stoner lifestyle, I guess, even though I'm not much of a stoner. Don't forget crystals. Yes, crystals, essential oils, all kinds of just crazy, crazy stuff has been told of me through the years. And I've actually written about it extensively because it's been that bad to the point where instead of saying, okay, thank you for your advice, I'm calling, no, because some of the advice has just been so counterintuitive, like the essential oils thing. There's some essential oils I like and I use some to clean, but there's some brands that I cannot even, let me see, I bet I have one down here. There are some brands that I can't even open and sniff. Someone gifted me a pile of these. I can't use these. They've been processed with benzene. And the brands that are processed with benzene make me sick as a dog, much sicker. They trigger my asthma, but if some of them don't. And those are the ones I will clean with and do whatever. This one, not so much. And I don't even see what the name of the brand is, but this is supposedly the one that was given to me that you take to make all your illnesses go away, all better. If I were to uncap this and sniff it, it would make my asthma go nuts. So, what's this? Snake oil is always a classic. It is, and that's one of the antiques that I'm sorry I didn't bring here with me. I used to have a bottle. I had to look there for a second. It's like, what the hell is that on my wall? Is it a Guadamonte? No, it's just one of my cats. Um, we used to have a bottle about this big that we found. We had a country store for a while, and it would have been a store continually since like the late 1800s. There was a bottle I found when I was moving stuff around of a patent medicine from turn of the century called Save the Baby. Save the Baby, specifically for children. And I started reading the ingredients and laughing. Lard, of course. There was lots of lard. There was menthol. There was alcohol. And there was cannabis oil mixed in it. So, yeah, if you gave that to your baby, of course they would breathe better and go to sleep. Can you imagine that? A patent medicine for babies with alcohol and cannabis oil in it. I just can't even. Can't even, can't even, can't even. They are a cult. They don't cure cancer, sis. You're right. But I have a cleanser I make and I use lavender oil in it because lavender oil can sterilize stuff. And I like the smell and it sterilizes stuff. So if it's certain brands that don't use benzene to extract the oil, I'm okay with it. A few drops mixed in with alcohol and a little bit of Dawn and a whole lot of water cleans just about anything. So it is a cult. Amanda, I've heard that about the beer virus. I've heard that. And I think I might have had it in the early days. My daughter came to see me in January, February of 2020. She showed up sick, taking a Z-Pack and various things, and said she couldn't smell or taste. After she left, I came down with it and could not smell or taste and was up in that bed hard for like 4 days. Could not move. It was terrible. Ah, yeah, that's a scary thing, Amanda. And that was a day when nothing was regulated. And I'd like to see, not for big government, but there's some things the government really does need to regulate. Medications is one. And they don't do the best job, but they're doing the best they can. It's like I was on Zolair for years and years and years. And it was one of those drugs that got pushed through at the speed of light because they said the benefit outweighed any possible side effects. And I knew that I was being experimented on when I went on Zolair because I was in the first group getting it. And I was fine with that. I signed the paperwork saying I wouldn't sue if I keeled over and died and if I had bad reactions. Gladly, because I'd reached the end of my rope. There was no drugs for me for my asthma. So I signed up for Zolair. And it worked out for me. I had 8 years of just no problems at all with my asthma or very minimal problems until it suddenly stopped working and I had to get off. So all these biologics that they advertise on American TV all came out of Zolair. The beer virus vaccine came out of Zolair. It's the same sort of thing. It's a biologic medicine. It is. It's quite important, Lisa. And I don't want to see them screw it up. I want to see them do it right. And if it's something like Zolair, where there were no other good alternatives, and those of us at the end of our ropes were willing participants in the experiment of this drug, more power to you. More power to you. And on that rant, I'm going to go. It's been an hour. And I'm just rambling now. I started out talking about the scene. And I'm going to keep watching this show and seeing if they develop on this because I have a feeling they might. My issue is that the pharmaceutical companies basically own the government by donating to politicians and lobbying in DC. My concern is they care more about money than actually doing what's right. Lady Hawk, there is some truth to that. Just look at what happened with EpiPens, the thing I use. I haven't used one in a real long time. Used to be they were $35 for years and years and years and years, so you could afford them even if you didn't have insurance. Then when they went up to $600 each, I was like, what? Because I was feeling, when I was at the worst, I was using 2 to 3 EpiPens a week. And it was getting to be ridiculous. When they went up to 600, thank God the Zolair had stopped all that cold. But I still occasionally ran into a situation where it was EpiPen. Here, they don't have EpiPens except one pharmacy in San Jose, which is 5 hours away, and it's $600 or more. So I go to the doctor when I need epinephrine, or very rarely use my EpiPens, thank God. Y'all have a great day. The price gouging is stupid, and an elastic demand curve. Yeah, that's the problem. That's the problem. Let me think more on that. I got to think more about those drugs because it's pretty ridiculous, some of the stupid stuff they've come up with. And I know somebody that owns a drug testing company, and he's a rich bastard. Shouldn't say he's a bastard. Way before Citizens United. Okay, you guys have a great day. I'm going to go clean the guest house now.